Hey guys, today I'm going to be unboxing the Moog Claravox Centennial. I am really excited to open this. This actually showed up a week ago, so let's get right into it.
Okay, so this box just opens on the bottom here. We got this really pretty Art Deco kind of description here. And then below that we've got this, not sure what this is. I'm gonna guess this is the manual. There we go. Yep, so that is the manual on a picture of Bob Moog and Clara Rockmore. We've got the official certificate there with the serial number and the President of Moog's signature and the date of completion. That's really cool. And I think underneath this is the instrument itself. So, this all comes out here. Oh, and there it is. Alright, so this is what's inside. I'm going to start with everything but the Theremin first. So first is, this looks like a poster. On the inside it's got the circuitry that goes into the Claravox, it looks like. Maybe I can open that and show it in a still photo later. We're going to go ahead and put that back. Let's see what this little white box is. I'm not sure. There we go. That is probably power supply, right? Yeah, it looks like probably power supply. There we go. We're going to go ahead and set that aside. Down here it looks like there's the power cable. And here are the antenna. So first we have, this is the volume loop. We're going to go ahead and take that out real quick. These are very heavy compared to the antenna that I have on my Etherwave Plus. It's a pretty thick, it's hollow, but it's very hefty. Feels really good. Set that down. We have the volume antenna right down here. It is threaded. It's open on this side, I think. Nope. You have to open that separately, but it also is hollow on the inside. Threaded, very thick brass. And then we have the arm that that volume antenna sits in. It's really pretty walnut. It's polished, really shiny. It's got the two lugs to fit into the unit. And that's where the pitch arm goes. And then we have the unit itself. Cover off, and I'm going to show you the whole control panel here, and then on the bottom it's got the mount for the stand, which will open in a moment. There's the arm lugs on either side. On the back you have all of the various outputs. Very pretty. Now we're going to open the stand to go with it and set it up real quick. And then we can get into some of the features and what it sounds like. So this is the accompanying stand. On the back of the box, it says that it should have the 3 legs, the aluminum mount here, and then the actual mount for the Claravox itself. So we will go ahead and take a look at that. Here are the assembly instructions. It looks like it also has a screw for mounting. These are the legs. So these are aluminum legs with little feet on the bottom so that the wood doesn't get scratched up on the ground. And then in the box up here we also have the, oh, there we go, the heavy duty mounting piece here. Which the legs slot into, and it has an adjustment screw here for the actual mounting rod for the Theremin. Alright, so now we're going to check out the instrument itself. It's all set up. I'm going to start with the traditional mode. This is basically a normal traditional Theremin, so anybody who's played one before, most of this is going to sound familiar. There's a couple of extra things on here. Before I get into the new things, I wanted to sort of explain for anybody who's a first-time Theremin player or owner what the tuning knobs do. In particular, the volume knob. A lot of people get frustrated that their volume isn't working. The volume knob doesn't actually work like a traditional volume knob does on most other electronic devices. So instead of controlling the actual output volume, the volume antenna controls the size of the field here, which controls the sensitivity. So if you turn the volume all the way up, just to demonstrate, it gets as loud as it can very quickly. And if you turn it way down, then your loudest volume is way up here. So what that's good for is when you're playing any sort of popular genre of music, or if you're playing a loud passage that requires maybe forte staccatos or something like that, you would have the volume antenna turned up so that you have a much lighter action. And then if you're playing more legato, flowing passages, you might turn your volume antenna down. The pitch antenna, we use that to tune. It's sort of the same principle. I've had people ask me why tune the pitch antenna, because anytime you move or as the instrument warms up, the tuning changes. It's sort of the same principle as tuning a violin. It's a fretless instrument as well, but you have to tune it so that you can actually find your pitches in predictable spots. We use a system of aerial fingerings that helps us find our notes, and if the notes are in a different place every time, then we can't play it that well. So I'm going to show a little bit of the tuning here. There's something called a zero beat, so I'm going to intentionally put it out of tune. So you're going to notice the edge of the field is there. We want that to be at our chest. So if you turn both of these knobs, if you turn them counterclockwise, you increase the size of the field, and if you turn them clockwise, you decrease the size of the field. So we're going to want to increase the size of the field by turning it to the left until zero beat is at the player's chest, where the hand meets the chest. I should also mention I'm using a Roland AC60 amplifier. It's not the best, it's not optimal for this instrument, so forgive any tone issues that I have. This is the best amplifier I have right now. So now the instrument is tuned, and I have the volume set where I'd like it. So the notes should fall in a roughly linear pattern. And you can see there's a little bit of compression there in the bass. On most theremins, there's either compression in the bass end or the treble end or both. This instrument, it seems like there's a little bit more compression in the bass end in the traditional mode. So there are two other knobs that are on most theremins, and then we'll get into some of the weird ones. So I'm going to turn this one, this is one of the new ones, off for now. So the two knobs that are on every theremin are these wave-shaping ones. We have a waveform and a brightness knob. The theremin works using something called a heterodyne oscillator. It's not the same as the VCOs that you would find in a synthesizer, so it doesn't create the same predictable waveforms, your triangle and pulse and sawtooth waves. It creates its own unique waveform, but you can adjust that shape using this waveform knob. So if we start with it all the way clockwise, and I'm just going to turn the brightness maybe about 9 o'clock, just to have somewhat of a bass line. You get a very bright kind of stringy tone as you turn it up. So that's about halfway, and then as you continue to turn it, so it seems like there's this weird kind of synth sound right about between the 9 and 12 o'clock position on the waveform here, at least with the brightness set the way it is. So starting with the wave all the way counterclockwise, if you adjust the brightness, this affects the overtones and the overall timbre of the instrument. So setting it to 0, and then as we turn it up, so this is halfway here. And my amp is producing some wolf tones, but you get the general idea. So as you turn up the brightness, it gets more complicated. You can actually, if you turn it all the way up, you can get these really sort of synthetic, electronic, almost distorted sounds. And then if you turn it more down, you can get those more sort of fluty, string-like kind of sounds. Something that's new on this instrument is it has filter and delay features. So the filter can kind of smooth out the timbre a little bit more. And it also affects the volume, I've found. If you turn it way down, way counterclockwise, it decreases the volume, as well as the filter. So I'm going to set that at probably 2 o'clock. And then the delay, it's your standard delay pedal. You have the delay knob itself. And then you have the feedback and the delay time. So you can set it almost like a reverb if you set it kind of low. And then you can get more extreme with the settings. So those are all of the different things that you can do in the traditional mode. And now I'm going to show you the modern mode features. So when switching this over to modern mode, I discovered that there is actually a tuning disparity between modern and traditional mode. So in traditional, you can see that it's in tune, but when I turn it to modern, I have my zero beat way out here, which is about 8 inches from my body, so I have to retune it. Alright, so now it's in tune in modern mode, so that's just something to keep in mind. If you're switching between the two modes, you need to retune the unit. So once again, this has the filter and delay and waveform and brightness settings, same as the traditional mode. What is different is that in addition to these two volume and pitch tuning antenna, you also have response curve antenna at the bottom here. So these knobs are new to the Claravox. I don't think any other Theremin has these, and they're basically supposed to help correct linearity within the field. So the field goes all the way to my chest, but if I change it, I think that's out. And it has sort of a bias towards the low end or the high end. So earlier I mentioned that the low end is compressed, so if I turn it more counterclockwise, I can hopefully correct the bass end a little bit. I'm not quite sure how the response curves work in relation to the original tuning knobs. I think it might need to be retuned with that, or I'll play around with that a little bit. So some other features that the modern mode has, we have this register knob. Right now it's in +1, but it also has, so if I just play, it should go. And this is a feature that was introduced on the Etherwave Pro. This is, I think, the first instrument since then to have incorporated that. It's just a register knob that helps if you're playing passages that have a really large range to them. As you can hear, the Claravox has a really big range to it. Something else that the modern mode has are preset timbres, and by holding this button here, you can actually, until it blinks red, it will overwrite any of the timbres on here. But I'm just going to show you the 7 factory timbres that it comes with without overriding any of those. Here's timbre 2. 3. Timbre 4. It's a weird one. Here's 5. And here is the last one, timbre 6. And it seems like there's a combination of register and several other effects going into those timbres, but those are supposed to be timbres that you can make yourself on here. They've just been saved as factory presets. So that is most of the modern mode as well. We also have a headphones volume. I believe it's set to sort of a practice mode, so whatever you play comes through the headphones, but I think there's also a way to get pitch preview. And so that's it for the control panel side of the instrument. On the back, we have, in addition to the 1/4-inch jack and power, you also have dual CV outputs. You have control voltage for both the volume and the pitch circuit separately. You also have MIDI outs, and then there should be also a tuning jack, which outputs a constant signal from the volume antenna into, if you have a tuner, maybe a pedal tuner. That way, without pitch preview in your ear, if you prefer not to wear headphones, you can still see the pitch that you're playing before playing. So if you're in some sort of studio setting, that gives you a little bit more reliability on the instrument. So that is the Claravox Centennial, just a quick review. There is also a quantize function, which is sort of like an auto-tune for beginning players, and I'm not quite sure how that works. Let me try that real quick. So if we turn it up, I believe there's you have to set that first. I read something about setting the key that it's in or having it chromatic. But basically, the more that you turn up the quantization, the more static the pitches become. But you can also turn it down to allow different degrees of vibrato. So as you learn and get better, you can start to add more expression with your hands until you're playing, a traditional theremin without any sort of quantization. I learned the instrument without any quantization, so I'm not sure how useful it would be to me. But if any of you are beginners, that would be good to look at. Again, that should be in the manual. But there's also a software that you can download online that has some editing features in the instrument. This is just the instrument out of the box, so I haven't looked at any of those features. But if you are a little bit more tech savvy, or you're more of a synth kind of person and you're making more use of the back outputs there, then you can go check that out and see what sort of synth edit hybrid components there are online. And yeah, that is the Claravox Centennial out of the box. That's me just sort of trying a couple of different things out.